pop4conservation.com. Ladies and gentlemen, that's where you want to go to support Congressional Sportsmen's Foundation fundraising efforts. Pop4, the number 4 conservation.com is where you can go to be a big winner. 80 winners, over $200,000 in prizes, vehicles, firearms, hunting and fishing packages. Again, 80 winners, over $200K in prizes. Pop4conservation.com, protecting our pursuits. Pop, the number 4 conservation.com. Go there today to enter. Welcome to the Sportsman's Voice Roundup, your weekly look at conservation and sporting community news happening across the nation and on the Hill. Thanks for tuning in. This is the TSV Roundup. Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the Sportsman's Voice Roundup, your weekly look at news from around the nation and conservation. This week, we're bringing to you 2 lead stories. We're going to give you an update on the battle for cat hunting and sound wildlife conservation in Colorado. We're going to be speaking to Barry Snell and Mark Truax on that here in a bit. House Natural Resource Committee scores on CSF priority bills. We're going to be joined by Chris Horton on that in just a moment. Other articles that we'll be covering: Southeastern States act on in solidarity to oppose the proposed North American right whale vessel strike reduction rule. Expanded deer hunting opportunities in Arkansas, and public firearm ranges stressed and under fire in the Northeast. Before we get to Chris, we're going to take it back about a week or so, maybe week and a half. We had a moment with the congressman from the great state of Louisiana, the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, talking about and celebrating the work of the CSC and how we're able to get things done in a bipartisan fashion, and in a time when, things are just sticky and messy down on the Hill. Sportsmen's issues remains a bright spot down there. So let's go back to D.C., hear from the speaker, and then we'll catch up with our good friend Chris Horton. Stand by. Have the honor and joined now by the Speaker of the House. Sir, thank you so much for being here. Appreciate your time. I know it's precious, so we're going to go quick. We're here. We're celebrating the work of the CSC, bipartisan, bicameral. We get stuff done. Everyone can celebrate conservation, being from the sportsman's paradise. If you could speak to that, and how in times where things are so divided, and that we can come together and work on issues of conservation.
Yeah, sure. Well, conservation is so important, and there are, to your point, there are very few things that can transcend these party divides right now. But this is an important one because everybody sees the value of it. And growing up in Louisiana, we certainly see that. And it's a kind of in our DNA, as we say. It's part of who we are. So it's encouraging to see other members of Congress from both sides of the aisle, from all around the country, who understand that same value. We have to conserve. We have to preserve what we have here. I mean, this is a land truly blessed by God. We have so many natural resources. We have so many great things that we can do and enjoy, and we have the freedom to do it. And those things are imperiled right now. We're in a battle to preserve them. And so, having these things that draw us together, that have this common denominator here, is really important right now. Maybe more important now than it's been in previous generations. So we're really grateful for all the work that's done here. 35 years, this is the 35th anniversary. That's a really important thing. So we're happy to support it.
It's extremely remarkable. And, certainly for us, we look forward to going down to your great state in November as we work with our National Assembly of Sportsmen's Caucus to celebrate down there. So looking forward to see that all Louisiana has to offer.
It's a lot to offer. We call it the Sportsman's Paradise for a reason. There's so much to do outdoors, and talk about a state blessed by natural resources. We have all of it. So we're happy to welcome you there, and grateful to have you all as well.
Looking forward to it.
It's going to be a great time.
Speaker Johnson, thank you so much for your time. Thank you.
God bless you.
All right. Thanks so much again to Speaker Johnson for his time and his comments and his thoughts. And welcome in now, Chris Horton. Chris, welcome back to the show. Thanks so much.
Hey, Fred. It's great to be back.
Speaker Johnson obviously hitting on the notes there of bipartisan work, and then highlighting the work of the CSC as well as, obviously looking forward to the NASC summit in his home state. But I think what matters here and what supports the article here that you have in this week's Sportsman's Voice is that ability to get things done in Washington.
Yeah, that's right, Fred. Been very fortunate that conservation still remains one of the bright spots that you can find bipartisan agreement on. And, last week in the House Natural Resources Committee hearing, they passed the ACE Act reauthorization bill, which they passed it on unanimous consent. So everyone agreed to it. Didn't even have to bring it to a vote. But basically, the ACE Act was first passed in 2020, and another time when we had a presidential election, a lot of partisan divide going on. But hey, again, conservation is one of those bright spots where the country and where legislators from both sides of the aisle can kind of come together. And the ACE Act is a really big, important piece of legislation for conservation because it contains the reauthorization of the North American Wetlands Act, or called NAWCA, which basically restores and preserves or protects wetlands in the Prairie Pothole region and beyond for waterfowl production. It's been one of the most important pieces of legislation ever passed for waterfowl. And along those lines, many years ago, we started working towards a program called the National Fish Habitat Partnership Program, which is intended to do the same thing that NAWCA did for ducks. We want to do the same thing for fish. So using local partnerships that's basically grassroots, locally driven from the bottom up, where you have local communities, angling organizations, state natural resource agencies working with the feds to identify habitat needs for fish and aquatic resources. And for the longest time, that program existed without congressional authorization, but it was still getting work done. There's 20 partnerships nationally across the country working on fisheries habitat stuff. Well, in 2020, we finally were able to authorize that program officially through Congress and through the ACE Act. And this reauthorization will continue that program. And also it makes a few tweaks to make the program a little bit more efficient. Anytime you write new programs into legislation, even though it wasn't a new program, but that first attempt to write it into statute, there's always a few things that could be tweaked to be a little more clear or to be a little more efficient. And there's just some little subtle things that we're able to work on with Congress to tweak and make the program more efficient. So there's also some Chesapeake Bay restoration programs that get reauthorized. So it's a really important bill for fish and wildlife conservation.
And our president and CEO, Jeff Crane, remarked and is quoted in the article thanking CSC members, Representatives Whitman, Kagans, Dingell, Panetta, and Thompson for their strong bipartisan leadership, moving forward the top priority for CSF and the sportsman's community. And then also going back to our conversation with Ducks Unlimited CEO Adam Putnam, we got into a pretty deep dive on the NAWCA part of that a few episodes back. So listening audience, you guys can go back and check out that great conversation with Adam there. You want to learn more about it. But yeah, this is great stuff. Chris, go into the other piece of legislation that was put up here, the proposed expansion or delay on the expansion of the vessel speed reduction.
Yeah, thanks, Fred. This is a very important one for anglers and boaters along the Atlantic coast. NOAA has proposed, back in August 2022, we saw a proposed final rule that would implement a blanket speed zone for vessels 35 feet and larger, for 35 feet and longer, of 10 knots for up to 7 months out of the year, so a little over half the year, from as far offshore as 40 miles to some places 90 miles offshore, which would be in an effort to protect the North Atlantic right whales, which will be devastating to the charter fishing industry. Recreational trip efforts will go down for those that are fishing out of a 35-foot center console, because you can't, in many places, it may be 40 miles, 30, 40, 50, 60 miles to get to fishing grounds. And it takes 6 hours to go one way and 6 hours to come back. That's a 12-hour trip. So you're not going to have any time to fish. So it's really going to be devastating. And our community's always been behind protecting whales, not just North Atlantic right whales, but all whales. There's nothing cooler than to be out on a fishing trip and to see a whale. That just adds to the overall experience, which is why we go while we fish. It's for the experience. But this particular bill tries to put a pause on or will put a pause on the implementation of this rule, and develops a program under the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation to fund research and implementing technologies that we have today. I mean, many of us feel or know that we have the technologies available to be able to detect and share that information with mariners, with boaters, with recreational fishermen of where those well locations are. And if we're in an area where wells are, then absolutely slow down. But to just have a blanket speed rule that runs from Massachusetts to Florida for half the year, it's not going to do much for the conservation of wells. We need to know where the wells are. Let's make sure that we can avoid them. So this bill would actually do that. Would implement a pause so that we can research, evaluate, implement technologies that'll help us to improve the conservation of North Atlantic right whales and all large whales.
And I mentioned it in the top, but Connor Barker, our colleague in the Southeast, has submitted an article talking about the Southeastern states and talk about bipartisan cooperation, and then as well as our National Assembly of Sportsmen's Caucus, our NASC program, umbrella of state legislators coming together. They recently, and through Connor's article, submitted testimony from Georgia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia, all sending comment letters encouraging their respective state agencies to comment or find the vessel strike reduction rule not consistent with their state enforceable policies under the Coastal Zone Management Act. So multiple levels and things coming together on this one.
Yeah, absolutely. We were glad to see and thankful that the state legislative sportsmen's caucuses in the states where they had a public comment and opportunity to engage really kind of pushed back and said, let's put the brakes on this. This is going to have tremendous economic implications for our states and our coastal communities when we've got technologies that's available that just aren't being implemented. So yeah, those state caucuses engaged their state agencies and said, hey, we need to not find this rule consistent with our coastal zone management programs. And that's what 4 of those states did, is the states officially said that this rule is not consistent with our coastal zone management policies.
That's pretty cool, Chris, to see that all come together, all the layers of our caucuses and groupings just, working in tandem on something like this. And you and I have talked about this in the past on the program. This is just really just seems so egregious to just broadly paint without any of this other consideration that you're just talking about. There's just so many details and nuance to this, and just to blanket put out an 11-mile-an-hour speed limit on the East Coast is insane, truly.
Yes, and just based solely on length of boat.
Yeah.
The risk assessment model that they arrived at for this blanket speed zone assumed, the model literally assumed, the 35-foot center console drafted 32.8 feet deep. So the boat drafts, in other words, the bottom of the boat extends down into the water column 32.8 feet, which is just, that was so absurd when we saw that. It's like, this, can't believe you're basing a rule on a risk assessment model that assumes that a boat that literally drafts, for instance, a 35 foot long contender, drafts 27 inches. So that means it's 27 inches when it's resting static. But all our center console boats are built around a planing hull, and a planing hull is meant to rise up out of the water even further at speed in order to reduce friction and to be able to go at that speed. There's not as much drag in the water, so there's actually less boat in the water than when it's sitting static. So there's 20 inches of boat in the water, and they assume that there was 32.8 feet in the water. So the risk assessment model is just so wrong.
It's a little off, and I don't know. I don't want to be insulting, but I mean, how the hell do you arrive at that with some of the educational prowess that some of them folks assumed over there? But never mind, I don't want to throw too much shade, but that seems to be skewed way off.
We were all we still scratching our heads at how they arrived at that. But
yeah.
But anyway, that's where we are. At the end of the day, technology is truly the solution for North Atlantic right whales. It's a solution for any whale vessel encounter reduction. We need to base that on existing technologies today, and we have a number of them that could be implemented today that would significantly increase the likelihoods of ensuring that there aren't any more vessel collisions. Certainly not from the recreational perspective.
All sounds good, Chris. I'll leave you with the opportunity to leave us with any parting words, thoughts, any other policies we can look forward to in the next year, or we can just leave it at that.
Well, there's a lot going on. I mean, we've got a Senate markup coming up this week with 79 bills in it. There's a couple of bills in there that we've been advocating for, MAP Waters, which basically just requires all federal agencies that manage public waters to put their data in the same format so that the public can access it, so that companies like Garmin and Lowrance and those that have chart plotters could be able to put accurate, up-to-date information and have that information updated consistently, so that it improves our ability and our confidence to go out and access a body of water. We know what fishing restrictions they are. We know where the no wake zones are. So that one's another one that's been highly bipartisan, and we're pretty confident we're going to see that one to the finish line as well this year. That's just one, man. I could tick down a whole list, but that's just another one top of mind because it's coming up here this week. But thanks again, Fred. I really appreciate the opportunity to come on, talk about some of the things we won.
You bet. No doubt. And it's a nice way to, I guess, head into the back half of back half of the quarter here and get into a new year. So good stuff. Thanks for the reporting, and we'll catch up with you real soon.
All right. Thanks, Fred.
Thanks, Chris. All right. Thanks again to Chris for his time, and obviously thank you to Speaker Johnson while we were down there in D.C. for giving us a couple minutes of his time and giving us his comments. Common theme there, getting stuff done in a bipartisan manner and keep stacking the wins. I hope that's great stuff all around. So again, thank you to both of those gentlemen for their time. Now, let us turn to Colorado, and we'll welcome in Barry Snell, Mark Truax. Let's go. All right, gentlemen, thanks again for coming on in. Barry Snell, welcome back. Mark Truax, thanks so much for your time. Barry, we've covered this topic extensively. CSF has been on the ground since day one with our caucus members and in-state partners. If you would, please introduce us to Mark. Let us know what's going on with the cat issue here. We're in the home stretch, and give us the update.
Yeah, thanks for having me back, Fred. Really appreciate it. It is my pleasure to have Mark with us today. Mark Truax is the campaign manager for Colorado Wildlife Deserve Better, CWDB. That is the organization that is heading up the campaign and the fight against Proposition 127, which seeks to prohibit mountain lion and bobcat hunting. And I don't want to step on Mark's toes too much here, so I'll just turn it over to him and let him kind of describe what we're up to here in Colorado.
Barry, thanks for the introduction. I really appreciate it. And Fred, thanks for having me on. I've always appreciated the friendship and partnership with Congressional Sportsmen's Foundation and our state sportsmen's caucuses around the country on these important issues that we're fighting, not only here in the West, but around the country. So thanks for the time. In Colorado, we are facing the latest ballot measure and the latest threat against hunting in the North American model with Proposition 127. This is a ballot measure that would ban mountain lion, bobcat, and lynx hunting in the state of Colorado, and would do so almost immediately if passed by the voters this November. One of the questions I get asked also often is, Mark, why are lynx part of this equation?
Yes.
Because lynx they're already a protected species. In Colorado, you can put anything that you would like in a ballot measure, in this case, including lynx as part of bobcat and mountain lion hunting. And there's nothing that we can do to get that language out of the technical language that would be in the ballot. It would just be redundant that it's not already there, and they can't hunt it under current regulations. And then these obviously would just be further. But it's really sadly designed to confuse the voters and encourage them to understand that it's mountain lion, bobcat, and lynx. And we all know that lynx aren't part of that equation. Mm-hmm. So we're focusing heavily in on the bobcat and the mountain lion messaging, because those are the species that we are allowed to hunt in the state of Colorado currently and do so regularly. And those species are thriving. They are great thanks to the North American model and thanks to science-based wildlife management that we've been able to push forward. So we're just a few weeks away from ballots dropping in Colorado, and we're pushing hard all the way through October on our messaging leading up to November, encouraging a no vote from Colorado voters.
Yeah, I will go back briefly to the links thing. Barry knows my feelings on this, and the audience does too, that it's just, it's asinine that it's on there. It's certainly a tactic. And like you said, it's meant for confusion. And, people, the general public, not understanding that links are not endangered. They are on the southernmost range of where they live. They're doing just fine north of the border and probably some of the northern parts of our northern border. And heck, we got them in New Hampshire, Vermont, documented this year. Maine's got a pretty healthy population. But again, it's the southernmost range of where they live. And these things are abundant. They're incredibly abundant. So that is disinformation. That is definitely twisting the facts. Again, like you said, Mark, to create confusion, to make it look like hunters, trappers, et al. Are out there depleting the landscape of a resource that, one, it doesn't exist for an opportunity and access for hunters or trappers in the lower 48, and it's doing just fine. So I get off my soapbox there because every time this comes up, I guess I get riled up about the links thing just because of what it is and why it's creating confusion. Now,
and Fred, I would say, if I may, they are protected in the state of Colorado under Colorado law. And so, you have your federal law, but Colorado law, they are protected. So we have to follow that already.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it is a redundant point. It's one that's frustrating. We see these tactics all the time with these types of ballot initiatives at work from those that are against hunting and fishing.
So, gentlemen, and I'll let either one of you take this. Where are we at, I guess, polling wise? Do we have a sense? I mean, there's polls everywhere, and how it's one of the craziest election years of, I think, ever, but definitely my lifetime, with so many other huge items looming at the state and the federal level, obviously. But for this, is there polling out there? What are we getting a sense of where the public is on this? If that's too close to the vest and we don't want to strategically release that, I'm fine with that right now. But I mean, is there a 40,000 foot sense of where we're at on this?
Yeah, we've done a lot of work looking at where voters are and what messages move them. I can tell you, Fred, this is going to be close. This is going to come down to the wire, and really reaching voters, not only across Colorado, but we've got to reach those that are in the Denver metropolitan. That's where our population centers are. That's where a lot of the voters are, and many of them may not be hunters. They may not have ever been hunting. They may not have grown up in a hunting family where they're exposed to this type of activity. So we have to reach them. And so our messaging has to be very different and very specific, that resonates with the non-hunting population. I will say that this is, it's going to be close. I don't have specific numbers to be able to share today as to where we are with polling, but this is going to come down to what we call weighted message, and making sure that our message can get out there, be heard by the voters. We know that our opposition has placed over $1 million in paid media, and that is all, Colorado, as with all states, the political dollars are transparent and there's reporting requirements. We've seen already more than $1 million in paid political media placed by the Yes on 127 campaign. And so we have to respond in kind and make sure that we're doing the same, getting out there through all of our channels, not just with these types of opportunities within our own communities, but reaching those voters that aren't listening to podcasts, hunting and fishing podcasts, the traditional voters that we have in Colorado, that know that this is a hard issue, and one that they need to be persuaded on to understand where things are at.
And, again, another part of this that's troubling, aside from the entire thing, is, I can almost reconcile in my gray matter that you would have this contentious idea of non-hunting certain species, hunting certain species. Like, we got that. One of the things I think is going under the radar, at least nationally on this, is the ability to harass. I mean, harass is not a good term, but to move these cats on, especially mountain lions, where you have professional houndsmen that are able to go out and provide a service, move these cats out of urban areas, move these cats, especially out of agriculture, livestock areas, so that there's not depredation and causing problems with ranchers and people with large livestock populations. That's an issue. Now what? So if we can't move these things along, we make this legal. Now we have even more head-to-head coming between these ranchers and cattle and livestock owners and the resource being in its natural state, that's a no-win situation, because ultimately someone's going to have to come out and put that lion down, or even a bobcat if it's being a menace to livestock. And what does that look like for resources? What does that look like financially? Is Colorado Fish and Game DNR, whatever they're called out there, forgive me, now they're having to work that into their budget. And this is, I mean, there's a lot of implications here with this issue alone.
Yeah, you are exactly right. The implications are abound. And just as we saw with the wolf reintroduction 4 years ago, the unintended consequences, and we can even run through so many consequences that we know about, a lot of which, Fred, you just outlined. But there are so many others that would come beyond this that we're even living now 4 years later following the wolf reintroduction. We look at a lot of the issues that they're facing in California on having, now that they're not able to hunt, California Parks and Wildlife and the Fish and Game Department there are having to go in, deal with those things, deal with the animals, to be able to manage them, whether it's move them, if they have to go in and take the animal, things of that nature. We're going to have to look at that to see what's going to happen here in Colorado. This is not about science wildlife management. They don't like, these proponents don't like trophy hunting. You look at those who are supporting this, it's Wayne Pacelli, who's the former CEO at the Humane Society of the United States, Carol Baskin with Tiger King, other wildlife groups that are supportive of this initiative. This has nothing to do with wildlife management. They don't like trophy hunting. They're hanging their hat on trophy hunting. One of our first and our best successes was being able to work the word trophy out of the title that will appear on the ballot language itself. It's still in the actual legal definition, but it's not included on what will be the title that is on the ballot. And this is just a prohibition on hunting. And we worked with our partners to legally challenge that before the title board. And we're very successful to be able to demonstrate that this is not about trophy hunting. This is a prohibition on hunting. And here's why. And that changes the mindset with Colorado voters as they look at this. I don't want to prohibit hunting. My dad might have hunted, my grandfather. It's just part of our way of life here in the United States, and definitely out here in the West with the beautiful animals that we have that we're able to take that are managed by Colorado Parks and Wildlife, our state wildlife regulatory agencies. So looking at it, there are so many things that we'd have to deal with and the unintended consequences that Parks and Wildlife would then have to manage. We can look to other states. We can look to other issues, knowing that it will come here. We need to nip this in the bud before it becomes a much bigger problem.
So did they define trophy in this? Is that what you just said? So I'm curious, because I really think no one knows what the hell that really means, because that's not real. That's very ambiguous. So please tell me if you know it. How have they defined trophy hunting? Because it's going to be dawn-breaking information here.
I'll see if I can pull up the legal definition that they have in there. But what they've done is they've really tried to make this about, and not only the legal definition, but making it about trophy hunting itself, and demonizing the community. Trophy hunting, according to this initiative, the definition that they include means intentionally killing, wounding, pursuing, or entrapping a mountain lion, bobcat, or lynx, or discharging or releasing any deadly weapon as defined in statute at a mountain lion, bobcat, or lynx. That is trophy hunting, and trophy hunting does not include, and it's got some exemptions on what it does not include, but it is specified in that statute and what would be in this past ballot measure, as that, and not being able to do those activities flat out. What this would then allow to do, if this gets put in statute, is you can take out and you can amend it and say trophy hunting includes not only mountain lion, bobcat, and lynx, might include elk, deer, pheasant, duck, moose, bear, all of these things. Same with the ability and the prohibition of hunting with dogs, not just with mountain lions, but all of the animals that are waterfowl in particular that are hunted with dogs, pheasants and other upland birds and bird species that you look at. All of these that we've got, the long-term implications of having this in Colorado revised statutes are huge, and things that we have to look at. as we're looking at it with the voters, we're working and keeping our message simple from a health and safety perspective, from a wildlife management perspective, and quite frankly, not letting those that reside in Denver, Colorado, from telling the rest of the state how to manage it. And what we've seen in our research, that resonates incredibly well around the state, that Denver voters need to not be the ones to do it. And we need to let the experts, whether it's Parks and Wildlife and the wildlife biologists, manage the wild as they see fit with the North American model as part of that tool.
That's all exactly right. And I'm going to stand by my initial thought, and they still haven't defined trophy hunting. It's still ambiguous, and it's at the very least disingenuous, but I mean, there it is. So that doesn't mean a hill of beans in what we're doing. Unfortunately, if this thing goes the wrong way, it's precedent setting, because now the language would exist, and the other 49 states need to be paying attention, because now this copycat language, I mean, God forbid this actually goes through, and now you start seeing this pop up at every other state legislature, and boy, howdy, do we have a hell of a fight on our hands, not just in Colorado, but just across. And you're exactly right. Plug and play, and it's a farce. Barry, please.
I'll be less generous and diplomatic than Mark was there. This is ambiguous and broadly worded enough that this isn't just about trophy hunting. Trophy hunting is their way of getting their foot in the door. It's the vampire across the threshold to create these laws and these methods for them to come in later in the future to start prohibiting other types of hunting.
Yeah.
And that's what this is all about. It isn't just about trophy hunting. This is about ending hunting. Full stop, period, end of story. That is their end goal. And the trophy hunting language is just a way to confuse people who don't know any better. And to go back to California, Mark mentioned California here a couple minutes ago. We already know. We don't have to guess what the consequence of this is going to be. We already know, because of California, their populations of mountain lion and bear, because they have prohibitions on bear hunting there too. Those populations are exploding, and the human-animal interactions that are coming out of that are tremendous. And law enforcement and their DNR are hamstrung by those laws there in California. They have great difficulties in handling when a mountain lion is hanging out in a tree outside of an elementary school. And that's a real thing. Somebody told me a story. There was a mountain lion in a tree outside of an elementary school in California, and the cops literally spent the entire school day trying to figure out how the hell to get authority to take care of this mountain lion. So it's just a matter of time before that is going to happen in Colorado. We don't need to guess. We already know. And it's something that we don't talk about enough. I think needs to be mentioned a lot more, is that this is not going to stop the killing of mountain lions or bobcats. All that's going to happen is that the government is going to be on the hook for killing the bobcats and the mountain lions. And the way the system is built right now is the government doesn't have to pay for it. Hunters volunteer. We pay into this system, and we work with CPW. That's Colorado Parks and Wildlife. We work with them voluntarily as part of their scientific management practices to keep the populations at a level that is healthy, both for that population and for the rest of the ecosystem at large. So that can't change. That is not something that, the Colorado government cannot just throw their hands up and say, "Oh, I guess we're just going to have 50,000 mountain lions run around Colorado." No, they are going to have to hire people, outside hunters, to come in from out of state and kill these things on the taxpayer's dime. So nothing is going to change except who is paying for and doing the work.
Yeah, and you cited California. I mean, I can cite, just in trapping alone in Massachusetts, the prohibitions on certain means of much more affordable ways of trapping, beaver mitigation, especially in that state, and pretty much outlawing it all around. Now they have to build in, many millions of dollars into their state budget to deal with beaver mitigation. And that's not a life and death situation. Whereas with these cats, friggin' lions, man, they will snatch a kid or a person on a mountain bike, as documented in California, as documented with kids, teenagers, I think just last summer, hiking on some not very, rural trails, and one kid getting snatched, the other kid running for help, coming back to find I think it was his brother dead. This is this is not hyperbole. This is real. Unlike the other side, there are serious life and death consequences for the cat and for human beings. And I'm here to tell you, human beings are on the top of the food chain when it comes to value system, not these cats. And if you can't reconcile that, you can't be helped. I'm sorry,
Right.
but that is the truth. Like your kids, your mom, your dad, your grandma walking her little dog or her Yorkshire Terrier should not have to worry about going out in Denver proper or anywhere else in the state of Colorado and worry about being attacked by a flipping lion, and especially when we already have the management tools to mitigate that, and you're going against it, and that's where we're at. Mark, what I mean, obviously there's a call to have people show up, but I think just like the federal election and everything else, sportsmen and women need to grab a friend to them, with them, bring them to the polls, and vote this sucker down.
Colorado's a 100% vote by mail state. So our ballots will get mailed out starting on the 11th or so of October, and will work their way through. So the election really starts here in just about 3 weeks.
Yeah.
We've got to get this information out and get it to our voters and get it everywhere. Our website is wildlifedeservebetter.com, has all the information. We'll have our updated materials on there. If you go and visit, you'll see in the upper right-hand corner next to the donate button, you'll see a link where it says media. Up there, you'll have great information and resources that you can download. We have a password on it. It's just wildlife, all lowercase. So we're sending that out far and wide, but trying to not have it get in the hands of of the proponents. But you can download the materials, the infographics, share those on your social media. It'll have all of our updated talking points, our videos that we're going to be running out for our advertisements, all of those great things that can be shared throughout social media with friends and family, sent as included as email news blasts with all of the different organizations that we're a part of to really reach the voters that we need. We're trying to engage, get as much information out as we can, because those votes are going to start coming in, and we've got to work through that process starting the middle of October all the way through Election Day. So it's a little different than some other states. There's a few states that are 100% vote by mail. Colorado's one of them. So our Election Day is not November 5th. It starts on October 11th.
For what it's worth, that sounds terrible. Do we? Is there a drop dead date on being able to register to vote? Because problem here is, as we know, and shame on our community, only 20% of licensed hunters on average nationwide actually get up and go vote, or perhaps in this situation, get a ballot in the mail and fill it out. Now, if you're not registered to vote and your local municipality doesn't have your address to send a ballot to, you're not getting one. So you're not getting a chance to even vote if you're not registered, right?
Yeah, and Colorado's worked to streamline a lot of this. We have same-day registration available. When you get your driver's license, we have a motor voter law in Colorado. You're automatically registered to vote if you're over the age of 18. So we've worked to try and eliminate, to encourage as many individuals and residents to vote. And we want to obviously goal 100% participation is the goal, but getting as many people out there. So we've removed the barriers. You can go online to your Polk County Clerk's office or the Colorado Secretary of State, find out how to register to vote, fill out that process, get that done, know where they'll be able to send you your ballot, or if it's after, where you can go to get the ballot that you need to be able. But this is an important issue that we've got in Colorado. And Colorado is in a unique position this year. We don't have a statewide race other than the presidency. Governor and the Attorney General, Secretary of State, they're not up for election. And we do not have a U.S. Senator race. We're in that the one cycle every 6 years where the U.S. Senators for our state is not up. So because of this, it's a much smaller election. Colorado's not one of the targets for the presidential race. So it's things like this and making sure we've got the turnout and getting the people that we need to turn out and understand these issues, because they're not seeing the pressure and the involvement from the top of the ballot, from the president, the U.S. Senate, the governor's type campaigns that you see in other parts of the country. This has got to be the driver in order to protect Colorado's wildlife, because our wildlife absolutely deserve better.
Okay, I just wanted to add to what Mark was saying, and this is kind of aimed at our audience here is hunters and anglers and people who are in this space. the people we really need to talk to about this are not the people like us. We need
Right.
to talk to our friends and family, our coworkers, anybody in our little circles in our lives who aren't, in our space, who don't go hunting, who are into the same pursuits that we are. And when we keep that in mind, that we should also keep in mind that when we communicate with them, we can't communicate with them the same way that we would talk to each other.
Sure.
The same things that we would talk to each other to appeal to one another are not going to appeal to, as Mark said, that I-25 corridor, people from Fort Collins to Colorado Springs, the Denver metro area, those folks who don't have our same values and lifestyles, we have to speak to them differently, and we have to, we can't pound them over the head with the doom and gloom of what's going to happen necessarily. But we need to make them understand what our role is in wildlife conservation. I think broadly speaking, this applies to all of us, all of the organizations across our space. We don't really do a great job of explaining what exactly our role is in wildlife conservation and how we are the primary funders for every single department of natural resources and whatnot across the country. We're not very good at that. And if we explain that to folks, and we tell them, hey guys, we're not asking you to become hunters. We're not asking you to go out and shoot a mountain lion. We're just asking you to preserve the state's ability to manage the wildlife populations with scientific management practices. And something that I find might be a little bit helpful is to tell them this, for us, this is not about retaining the ability to kill mountain lions. We are not bloodthirsty people. We don't necessarily particularly want to go out and shoot mountain lions. This, if CPW came to us in Colorado and says, look, guys, populations are low. We're going to put a moratorium on mountain lion hunting for 30 years based on our science. We would all go along with that.
Yeah.
We would be very happy to support that and help them in that pursuit. So this is not about just trying to kill mountain lions. This is about the state, CPW in particular, retaining the authority, retaining the power to manage the wildlife according to best scientific practices. These guys are professionals. We just want to leave the authority to do this in their hands and not take it away based on emotion. Plain and simple. So just remember, guys, for those of you out there listening, if you're a hunter and you're into this, we need to communicate with the people who are non-hunters, and that means kind of adjusting our approach.
Yeah. Do so gently, do so with compassion and empathy, and act like you're talking to a toddler about this. I mean, really, that's not an insult, but I mean, that's how you got to break it down, because all this heady stuff, North American model, funding, I mean, they're just not going to get it. So you're exactly right. Guys, I've taken probably 10 minutes more of your time that I intended to. I'll give you the opportunity both to leave parting thoughts on this and messaging, and then I'll return you back to your regular scheduled day.
Well, Fred, I'll just say first, thank you. Thank you for having me on, Barry. Always great to partner with you, my friend. And a sincere thanks to all of you listening and the partnership with the Congressional Sportsmen's Foundation and the Sportsmen's Caucuses around the state. The Colorado one has been with us from the beginning on this. More information, wildlifedeservebetter.com. We'll have everything that you need there. Talk to your friends and your neighbors. For those that don't live in Colorado, have this conversation. We want to make sure that it does not come to a state near you. For those that are in Colorado, remember, leading up to Election Day, vote no on Proposition 127. Really appreciate the time, Fred and Barry. Thank you so very much.
You bet, Mark. Barry?
Yeah, I'll kind of follow that up. I won't repeat what Mark said, but Mark kind of buried the lead here a little while ago when he said that our opposition, the proponents of 127, they just did $1 million ad buy. Let that sink in for a second. $1 million. All right. So this is very much a money game, folks. I know nobody likes that. Nobody wants to hear that money and politics are so closely intertwined, but they are. That is the reality that we live in. So if you can get on the website that Mark just mentioned, and you can click that donate button, even $5, $10 is going to help tremendously. You are a force multiplier when you provide that funding for us. And Mark is one of the best at this, so that money is being spent well, and it's in good hands with our coalition.
Very good. Gentlemen, thanks for your hard work on the ground out there. There's still time to go. And like Mark said, 3 weeks till mail-in voting starts. So I guess that occurs for the next 6 weeks, which to me is just madness, but whatever. That's another show for another show. and not this one for today. Guys, thanks so much for your time. I appreciate it. And we'll catch up with you post-election, and hopefully we got news that is good.
Thanks, Fred.
Right.
Thanks, Fred.
All right, folks, with the 2 lead stories out of the way, let us quickly get through the other headlines here. We touched on Connor's offering here with the Southeastern States with Chris in the top. So I'd invite you to, if you want to read more on that, please do. You can read the letters there as well. There's some hyperlinks in that article you can check out. So thank you, Connor, for your contributions and contributing indirectly to our lead story with Chris there. Let's head to Arkansas with expanded deer hunting opportunities. This from Ken Keene. Some of the highlights here: in early September, Arkansas hunters had their first opportunity to pursue whitetail deer hunting during the state's first early buck-only archery hunting season. Following that 3-day hunt, most sportsmen and women are anxiously awaiting for the opening of the full archery season on September 27th, which will be, as this episode drops, that'll be in 2 days. Later this fall, hunters will also have the opportunity to participate in the state's new alternative firearm season, which replaced the muzzleloader season while legalizing the use of straight wall cartridges. That's pretty cool. In early October, Arkansas deer hunters will see another new opportunity we just mentioned in the the state's new alternative firearm season. The new season replaces the muzzleloader season while legalizing the use of straight wall cartridges. While initially controversial for some traditionalists, this new season provides a unique opportunity to those who do not hunt with a muzzleloader to get a field before the state's regular firearms hunting season. That's cool. Good deal. And seeing that pop up in a few other states as well. I've never hunted Arkansas. I don't know how it is down there. Kent will be able to tell me offline, but I will tell you, here where I live, it's a crowded spot, and we do not have a lot of opportunity to use rifles. It's most of it shotgun only or muzzle loader. But what's nice about those muzzle loaders is most of us that participate know you're getting rifle distance and accuracy in a one-shot proposition, which I guess you're kind of always shooting for anyway. But I guess all that to say, some people shy away at the muzzle loaders just because of the nature of them, that primitive style of hunting. But if you're late to the game on it, or you've never considered it, you may want to give it a try. Don't sleep on the muzzleloader hunt. That's a whole lot of fun. Anyway, thank you to Kent for that article, and then we're going to wrap it up here. This from Christian Ragosta. Public firearm ranges stressed and under fire in the Northeast. Let's see here. July of this year, Massachusetts passed its omnibus gun law. We've discussed that. What ended up being House Bill 4885, Chapter 135, I think, which would require live fire component to obtaining mandatory firearm identification card. Without specific legislation protections, long-standing and storied shooting ranges are in jeopardy of being closed due to newly enacted local regulations, including noise ordinances, lead abatements, and operating hour restrictions. Minimizing zoning restrictions, unnecessary fees, and allowing for grandfathering of shooting ranges within city limits are essential steps to ensuring access in the future. States like Maine in 2016 enacted a bill to protect ranges from unwarranted lawsuits and initiate senior rights for established ranges. Ranges are essential for recreational shooting, recruiting new participants in shooting sports, and providing a place of practice to ensure hunter safety and ethical shots in the field. Some of the highlights here, as mentioned, Massachusetts mandates a live fire component now for their FID card in 2024. New York requires at least 2 hours of live fire training for pistol permits as of August 22. Suffolk County Skeet, Trap, and Sporting Clays range lost a legal fight due to noise ordinances in November 19. Article goes on to cite some of the items Christian brought up in the intro paragraph here: lead abatement, urban sprawl. So again, you can go congressionalsportsmen.org, subscribe for the EPUB. Again, long on this one, guys. Very good article here from Christian. Something we've we've touched on in the past. So I do invite you to go read that, and I don't want to be too much longer on your day. Thanks to all those who have hung in thus far. That's going to do it. That's the show for this week of September 23rd, 2024. Again, lots covered here in this one. There's a lot going on. No rest for the wicked, I guess. And we continue to soldier on, working with our in-state partners, legislators, our contacts on the Hill. This is CSF in motion. This is our work. This is what we're doing. Kind of some of it all hits at once, and rest assured we are up to the task and on it. And just grateful to have a platform to bring these stories to you, and the fact that you guys are tuning in and listening and taking this information and doing good stuff with it, and educating your local communities and folks, and keep them abreast of what's going on nationally and in your own backyards. So there it is. You heard the sounder in the front. You're going to hear it in the end. But do check out the raffle we got going on. Pop 4 Conservation, POP, the number 4 Conservation. Go there, check out what we've got going on with that raffle. Again, the website, POP, the number 4 conservation.com, pop4conservation.com. This is going to get repeated here again on the out, so you get all the instructions and what's up for grabs there. But your participation helps and keeps the mission of CSF going. So head on over there and participate as you will. That's it. Thanks so much for tuning in, guys. We always appreciate the support. And like, follow, subscribe. Don't miss a beat. It'll show up on your phone. New episode drop Wednesday. New episode drops Thursday. Whenever they do, don't miss those notifications out. And your subscriptions and follows help. They help move us in the eyes of the searching audience. So, as always, CSF is your inside connection to outdoor legislation. We will see you next week. So long. Thanks for joining us on this edition of the Sportsman's Voice podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, your support is crucial, and you can help us out right now by leaving a review, filling in those 5 stars where available, sharing this episode with friends and family, and engaging with us socially. CSF can be found on Facebook, Instagram, and X, formerly known as Twitter. Together, we can protect the outdoor sports we love and continue to keep you informed wherever you are. That's it for this week. Until next time, we'll see you later.